5 ways to awaken the obsession instinct in his mind. Has this ever happened to you, where a man seemed captivated, drawn in as if by an invisible thread, but then, suddenly, his fascination slipped away, leaving you wondering what spell had broken? Attraction flares like fire, but obsession, the kind that haunts his thoughts, the kind that lingers even in silence, obeys laws few truly understand. Most women believe beauty, availability, or affection are enough to anchor his attention, but the truth is more elusive, more private. Obsession is born not from the surface, but from depth. It stays when a man's psyche collides with something archetypal, something that awakens both his hunger and his fear. Imagine this: the masculine soul, restless by nature, forever seeking conquest, suddenly meets a force he cannot name. It is not merely her body he notices, not simply her kindness he admires. No, what unsettles him is the way her presence mirrors his shadow, challenges his dominance, calls him into an arena where his usual weapons are useless. This is the first seed of obsession, the recognition, whether conscious or unconscious, that she is not merely attainable, not merely another fleeting encounter, but an initiation into something greater. In her eyes, he senses both sanctuary and storm, and he cannot decide which terrifies him more. Some women know this instinctively. They do not give everything away too soon. They are like mythic figures who walk into a room carrying invisible fire. Their silence speaks more loudly than another woman's words. Their laughter feels earned, not scattered carelessly. And when they offer affection, it feels rare, deliberate, like a blessing he must prove worthy of. Men become obsessed when they sense they are standing before a threshold, not a playground. When they know they must rise to meet her or risk being devoured by their own inadequacy. But here is the paradox. Obsession is not born from playing games. Games are shallow, and shallow men are the only ones who chase them. True obsession, the kind that endures in his psyche long after absence or distance, is born from authenticity combined with restraint. It is born when a woman embodies fullness, when she radiates that she is already whole, already fed from within, already lit by her own source of power. A man becomes obsessed not because she needs him, but because she doesn't. He feels it in her energy, the absence of hunger, the absence of fear. It unsettles him, for in a detachment, he feels a mirror of his own secret longing to be free of need, and yet his masculine drive to conquer pulls him closer, to test whether he can win what cannot be easily claimed. There is a reason myths across time tell of women who held kingdoms in their gaze, who could unmake a man with silence. Cleopatra, Circe, even the unnamed muses of poets, all carried something more than beauty. They embodied archetypes that stirred the masculine unconscious. They awakened in men both the desire to possess and the terror of never being enough. This tension, this duality, is a crucible where obsession is forged. So, consider this if you wish to awaken that instinct in his mind. It begins not with him, but with you. It begins with the way you stand in your own worth, with the way you refuse to collapse into his approval, with the way your attention feels like sunlight, nourishing when offered, devastating when withdrawn. Men sense it instantly, often before they can articulate. You may call it magnetism, chemistry, allure, but in truth, it is psychological gravity. It is the pull of a woman who has become sovereign in her own kingdom. And do you realize the power in that? Do you know what happens when you stop begging to be chosen and instead embody the woman who chooses? Something shifts. His instinct awakens. He begins to dream of you, to turn your name over in his mind, to wonder what you are thinking when you are not with him. His mind cannot let go because he senses that what you carry cannot be manufactured, cannot be imitated. You are not chasing him, you are summoning him. Not with words, not with effort, but with the aura of your wholeness. Every man, even the strongest, carries within him the archetype of the hunter. But the hunter is only truly alive when the prey is elusive, mysterious, untamed. If you collapse into his hands too quickly, the hunt is over, and so is his fascination. But if you remain untamed, if you remain a mystery he cannot fully grasp, then the hunt becomes endless. An obsession is nothing more than the endless hunt that never resolves, the fire that never fully burns out. This is why, in truth, obsession has little to do with manipulation, and everything to do with energy. The woman who commands his mind is a woman who does not seek to control him. She simply embodies her own depth so powerfully that he cannot escape their echo. Even in silence, even in distance, even when she is absent, he feels her presence like a haunt, and the more he tries to resist, the deeper he falls. Obsession deepens when a man feels a collision between his longing and his fear. To awaken that instinct in his mind, a woman must not only embody fullness, she must also embody unpredictability. For what is known too easily becomes forgettable, and what is predictable becomes ordinary. The psyche of a man is wired to chase the horizon, to seek what lies just beyond reach. When you, as a woman, are not entirely readable, when your soul holds hidden corridors he has not yet explored, his thoughts circle endlessly around you. You become the riddle he cannot solve, the labyrinth in which he willingly loses himself. This does not mean to play at false mystery, for falseness reveals itself quickly and leaves only bitterness. It means to truly cultivate within yourself a life rich with layers, depths that are not merely performed for his eyes but genuinely lived. A woman who nurtures her passions, who tends to her inner world, who burns with the fire of self-discovery, becomes unpredictable not because she withholds, but because she overflows. She is not waiting for him to define her story. She is already writing her own. And when he encounters this, he is both fascinated and unsettled. He cannot predict her next movement because she is not orbiting him. She is orbiting her own star. Imagine this from his perspective. He meets a woman who listens deeply yet speaks sparingly, who offers glimpses of her thought but not the whole map. He senses she carries oceans within her, yet she does not pour them out on demand. He is used to women who yield quickly, who rush to expose all their fears and desires in the hope of securing his affection. But she is different. Her silence feels intentional, her revelations carefully chosen. In her restraint, he feels a weight of significance. Every word she does speak lands with impact, as though it were etched into stone. And so, he replays them in his mind, searching for hidden meanings. This is how obsession germinates, in the fertile soil of mystery. From a Jungian lens, this quality awakens the animal within him, the inner feminine archetype that yearns for completion. When he cannot fully grasp her, he projects his anima onto her, believing she holds a missing piece of himself. But because she remains elusive, the projection never resolves. She becomes, in his psyche, both muse
but the piece
and
of
tormentor,
himself he sees
an image he chases because he believes
cannot
she is
give
answer to a longing. Here lies the danger. This is the
power.
essence of mythic
If a woman
obsession.
collapses into
it is not the
projection,
woman herself
she
who begins to
craves,
shape herself,
but the
to
piece
match
of it
the
carries.
sees reflection. She loses her grip on his psyche. She becomes no longer a mystery, but a mirror he has conquered. Yet if she remains centered, if she refuses to be defined by his projection, then the tension remains alive. He cannot place her in a box. He cannot finish the story. And so, his mind loops back to her, again and again, as if returning to a riddle without an answer. But let us be clear, unpredictability is not chaos. Chaos repels. A woman who is erratic, inconsistent out of insecurity, or dramatic for tension breeds exhaustion and obsession. The unpredictability that awakens him must be rooted in authenticity. It comes from a natural unfolding of a woman who is always becoming, who is never stagnant, who is not frozen in one identity. She is a garden always in bloom, each season revealing something new. This is why the most captivating women are often those deeply invested in their own evolution. Their self-discovery is unending, and thus their allure is inexhaustible. Ask yourself, do you live in a way that surprises even you? Do you cultivate curiosity within your own soul, so that your life feels like a story unfolding rather than a script already written? If you do, then your presence will naturally hold him. He will wake in the night wondering where your thoughts wander. What dreams keep your heart restless? What hidden chambers of your being he has yet to see? It is not that you are withholding, but that you are endlessly becoming. And nothing obsesses a masculine mind more than a feminine soul in perpetual transformation. The Stoics taught that mastery of desire comes not from possessing, but from understanding the futility of possession. Yet here is a paradox. When a man encounters a woman he cannot possess fully, he feels both the sting of this truth and the intoxication of the chase. Marcus Aurelius spoke of the soul as ever flowing, like a river that cannot be stepped into twice. The woman who embodies this truth, who changes like water yet remains whole, awakens in the obsessive desire to return to her again and again, hoping this time the current will reveal something he missed. And you, do you realize how rare this is? In a world where most reveal too quickly, give too cheaply, and settle too easily, the woman who embodies unpredictability is lightning. She does not have to demand his attention. She simply lives with such depth that his mind cannot rest. He becomes addicted not to her availability, but to the anticipation of discovering who she will be next. And this anticipation is a quiet fuel of obsession. Obsession sharpens when contrast enters a dynamic. For the masculine mind, polarity is oxygen. He is drawn not only to softness, but to the shock of its opposite, strength hidden within tenderness, fire concealed behind. It is this polarity that keeps his soul unsettled, his thoughts circling like hawks over prey he cannot land upon. If he can predict you will always be gentle, always be agreeable, always yield, then he relaxes into familiarity. But if within your softness there is steel, If within your warmth there is distance, if within your surrender there is sovereign will, then you are no longer predictable. You are paradox. And paradox is what the psyche cannot release. Consider the myth of Artemis, goddess of the hunt. She was beauty itself, flowing with nature's grace, but in her hand was a bow, untouchable, unyielding to any who sought to claim her. Men pursued, but she was never caught. It was this duality, delicate and deadly, approachable and untouchable, that carved her into the minds of those who whispered her name. To awaken obsession in a man is not to be one thing only, but to embody opposites, to show him both sanctuary and storm. He will not know whether to seek comfort in your embrace or to guard himself from the lightning of your rejection. And that not knowing is the very force that binds his imagination to you. From the lens of Jung, this is a dance of shadow and light. Every man carries within him qualities he disowns, the shadow traits he hides from the world. When a woman embodies contrast, she awakens both his admiration and his suppressed fears. She becomes a mirror of his unclaimed wholeness. He longs for her tenderness, but he is equally magnetized by her defiance. He desires her nurturing, but he cannot look away from her indifference. His mind spirals because she does not simplify herself for his comfort. She embodies a totality he secretly wishes he could integrate within himself. Imagine this. He leans into you, expecting yielding, and you give it. He softens, but the next moment, when he assumes you will remain in that softness, you stand firm, untouchable, resolute. His breath catches. He sees that you are not a role he can cast, but a soul with her own rhythm. His heart races, not because you have rejected him, but because he has touched the edge of something wild. This wildness awakens his animal instinct, the part of him that thrives in the unknown. He begins to chase, not out of boredom, but out of compulsion. You have become the one he cannot predict, and therefore the one he cannot release. The Stoics warned against desire becoming enslavement. Seneca wrote that we are often more tormented by our imagination than by reality. This is precisely why polarity holds him. Reality may show him that you are balanced, human, imperfect, but his imagination latches onto the extremes, the softness that soothes him, the fire that terrifies him. In his mind, you become larger than life, an archetype he cannot confine. And the more his imagination runs, the deeper obsession grows. But here lies the truth. Contrast must be authentic, not manufactured. If you pretend to be strong when you feel weak, or aloof when you crave closeness, the act crumbles. But if you honor all sides of yourself, your fierce independence and your deep vulnerability, then you embody natural polarity. Men sense when a woman is true. They may not articulate it, but they feel the difference between a mask and a mystery. Masks bore them once revealed. Mysteries haunt them because they are endless. Ask yourself, do you allow all your colors to live? Do you let yourself be soft when softness blooms, fierce when fierceness rises, detached when detachment is wisdom? Or have you flattened yourself into one dimension to feel safe, to be accepted, to avoid rejection? If so, then you rob yourself of the very paradox that awakens obsession. The woman who holds her wholeness, the light and the dark, the tenderness and the ferocity, becomes unforgettable in her. He senses not only a lover but a storm, not only a sanctuary but a challenge. She awakens both his longing and his dread. An obsession is born in the space where those two meet. Picture him leaving your presence, determined to move on, to clear his mind. But in the silence of the night, he replays the way you shifted, how your kindness did not erase your sovereignty, how your smile did not erase the firmness of your boundaries. He remembers the way you gave, but only on your terms. He remembers the way you opened, but not without discernment. This duality haunts him because it forces him into humility. He cannot categorize you. He cannot own you. And so, you live inside him like a flame that flickers but never extinguishes. Polarity is not about manipulation. It is about living your wholeness unapologetically. Polarity is not about manipulation. It is about living your wholeness unapologetically. A man becomes obsessed not because you perform a role, but because you are a paradox he cannot contain. You are water and fire, earth and air, muse and sovereign. And in his search to resolve you, he resolves nothing. He only deepens his fixation. Obsession does not reach its peak in presence alone. It sharpens in absence, in the hollow spaces where imagination takes root. For the masculine psyche, what is scarce becomes precious, what is distant becomes magnified. To awaken obsession is not merely to entrance him when you are, it is to remain vivid even when you are gone. And this is where the most powerful women understand the truth. Space is not emptiness, it is oxygen. Absence is not rejection, it is a mirror. It shows a man the shape of his hunger, the size of his longing, the depth of his attachment. A woman who knows her worth does not flood him with constant reassurance, nor does she withhold cruelty. She simply lives. She allows space between encounters, not as strategy but as a natural consequence of a full life. She does not orbit him, and so he must orbit her. He checks his phone, wondering when she will appear. He replays conversations, grasping at fragments of her tone. He wonders whom she is with, what she is thinking, whether she is remembering him at all. Absence bends his imagination until it becomes a theater. And in that theater, she is a leading figure. This is how obsession flowers, not from constant closeness, but from echoes that never fade. Jung once wrote that projection is powerful because it fills the unknown with meaning. When you are not present, he fills the gap with his own longing. He imagines you radiant, untouchable, with a life unfolding beyond his reach. The more he projects, the deeper his obsession, because the woman he pursues is no longer only you. She is the archetype he has painted across the canvas of his mind. This is why distance is powerful. Not games, not manipulation, but true independence. When you live fully in your own rhythm, his mind must wrestle with your absence, and the more it wrestles, the more entangled he becomes. But understand this, obsession is not the ultimate prize. Obsession is only the echo of a man awakening to his own unclaimed depths. What matters more than his fixation is your detachment from needing it. Obsession can become poison if you mistake it for proof of worth. The most sovereign women are those who inspire it without clinging to it, who allow men to circle their orbit without ever making an obsession with their crown. They do not seek to be worshipped, only to be free. The Stoics would remind us, to be desired is not to be fulfilled. Seneca wrote that true power lies not in being pursued, but in not being enslaved by pursuit. And here's where the feminine finds her freedom. Yes, you can awaken his obsession. Yes, you can live in his mind like a haunting. But the greater victory is this, that you do not need it, that you do not measure your worth by the intensity of his hunger, that you walk away, if needed, with the same calm you arrived with. For what is the fate of the woman who knows her power but still chases validation? She becomes trapped, addicted to the very obsession she has sparked. But the woman who remains detached, who loves without clinging, who inspires without bending, she is untouchable. He may obsess, he may ache, he may build entire fantasies around her absence, but she remains whole, sovereign, unbroken by his gaze. This is the ultimate paradox. The more she does not need his obsession, the more it grows. So, remember this, obsession is not truly about him at all. It is about you, about the way you cultivate mystery without masks, fullness without hunger, contrast without chaos, absence without fear. When you live from that place, obsession awakens naturally, like a flame drawn to oxygen. You do not need to chase it, for it chases you. You do not need to perform it, for you embody it. You do not need to demand it, for his mind will return to you unbidden, again and again, long after you have left the room. And in the end, what remains is not his hunger but your sovereignty, not his pursuit, but your peace, not his obsession, but your freedom. The highest state is not to be worshipped, but to be unshakable, to stand so firmly in your worth that even his obsession cannot sway you. For the woman who knows her worth does not chase, she chooses, and in her choosing, she is free. The woman who knows her worth doesn't chase what she chooses. END.